All right, everyone. So in this video, I want to do a partial processor upgrade. And so what I have here is the AMD Ryzen 9 9900X. So this is AM5 socket processor that's recently being released. And supposedly it gives pretty good bang for the buck in terms of price, in terms of performance for the price I paid. Okay, it's on sale right now at Micro Center for just $380. I went and picked it up. They don't really ship it for that price, but it's rather cheap. Okay, $380. That's with tax. I also got a rather affordable motherboard to go with it. This is a business line B650 chipset motherboard from AMD. And the manufacturer, of course, is MSI. The model number is Pro B650S Wi-Fi. And I didn't go with top-of-the-line chipset only because, again, I'm not an extreme player or gamer, and I just do my regular content creation and video editing. So really, the mainstream top-of-the-line is not, not for my needs, and I don't want to spend that much money. Okay, so I went with just mainstream. So a 9900X, DDR5, this is 32 gigs, dual channel, okay? This is, again, quite affordable. This is $80 on sale at Black Friday from Crucial. Some heat paste, because I need to transfer my air cooler from my existing AMD Ryzen 3950X to this 9900X. Okay, so a couple generations later already, this one is running an AM4 socket. So unfortunately, I couldn't use that same motherboard. I have to buy AM5 motherboard. But this is to the extent of things that I need to replace in order to get the newest generation processor. Okay, so, not too bad. And overall, on this whole set, I spent, I think, a little more than $600. This is $380 some dollars. This is $80, and that's $160 some dollars. And this is less than $10. Okay, so quite affordable upgrade. When I say affordable is because I can always just resell my existing 16-core 3950X with the motherboard with a 64 gig of DDR4 memory to recoup some of the cost. So I think overall, I'm estimating I'm spending around $300 to get the new chipset and the new memory and the new processor after I resell whatever I have in there, the motherboard, the processor, and the memory, of course. Now, I don't know what to expect when I start moving the whole system, when I start moving my storage devices over to the new motherboard. Would it consider this a brand new system? In that regard, ask me to purchase a new license for the Windows. I do not know, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm literally just going to put the operating system exactly as is from the old motherboard to the new from the old case to the new one, and in hope that it's able to find some of the storage devices to install the Windows that needs to run. And because I want to keep all the data, okay? So hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to work. And if not, I'll have to just reinstall the new system. All right, so that's what it's going to be. So let's see. All right, so I disconnected all the cables, and I'm literally just going to pop it open and remove whatever is necessary to be removed and put onto the new system. Okay. So I think I need to remove the motherboard, but first I need to remove the graphic driver, the graphic card, and also remove this gigantic air cooler and disconnect all the cables. All right, what you guys seeing here is with the two cooling fans removed on the heatsink for the CPU cooler. This is an Noctua D15, again, my favorite CPU cooler, and I've been using this for years. And it just transfers from processor to processor, which is really convenient. Okay, so again, to remove the AM4 I think all I have to do is actually loosen the two bolts here to get the heatsink loose. And then I should be able to actually lift this up. And then in turn, just exposes the processor down there. And I'm not even gonna remove the processor off the motherboard because I'm gonna be selling this as a whole set. Okay, so, and I can feel the tension has been loosened. And I can probably lift this up. Now, I did a video before on how to remove the AMD stock heatsink at the cooler. This one, I think it should just be able to lift up right away. But if not, yeah, it is. So this is what it looks like. This is what's under. Looks like you could use a little more heatsink, right? So the next one I'm gonna install, I'm gonna apply a little more heatsink just to make sure that this contact area has really good contact. Next, just removing the motherboard, and it's going to be rather easy. Remove all the power connectors, if there are any clicking ones. And I don't know what the power requirement for the new one is. Hopefully not too bad. And then we should be able to not have to replace any of the power connectors, hopefully. All right, so it's just a couple of screws that's securing the motherboard. Once the motherboard is removed, I'll remove the bracket and I'll install the bracket onto the new motherboard and then install the cooler. And that's pretty much the process. Here are the DDR4 memories. Okay, so I'm just trying to pry them up and see. They should all be in pretty good condition. Now, a quick trick that I always use to clean those really hard to clean fins and really hard to remove dust is a little toothbrush. So all you have to do, okay, get in there and just start brushing gently. And whatever you see, the dust that you initially see should all be wiped away. And this one, look at that. It's just with a toothbrush. You don't even have to have any cleaner. You're able to brush all the dust off. And that also applies to whatever the components in here, like maybe the fan you need to clean. You just, use your toothbrush, get in there, brush it really nicely, and it should be clean. Okay, so that's my two tip for you guys if you are looking to clean your components efficiently. I need to get the bracket removed first. And let me see. So the bracket is only mounted from, the screws are only on the top. There's a plate at the bottom, but you don't have to flip the motherboard to access the plate. You can literally just unscrew this plate directly. And again, this one I'm going to be reusing, so I'm going to leave all the components on the side. I'll show you what the plate looks like on the back. This is what the plate looks like. Again, this is from the Noctua D15 cooler, and this is not part of the motherboard. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, so with that said, we have pretty much disconnected everything. We can now confidently unscrew all the screws on the motherboard and just take the motherboard out and maybe drop the brand new motherboard in here. Okay, should be 9 screws total, I think. Let's take it out. Rather easy. Okay, so that's to the extent of the hardest part is to remove all the components. And this is the processor. Okay, looks nice. Memory. Oh, one last thing I forgot is my system. I gotta remove my system. And here, so this is my backup drive. I use this old memory stick for temporary files and stuff. And my actual system is right here, which I have to remove the plate to get access to. And it's got a little bit of the heat spread over here, which is quite interesting. Okay, heat spread needs a little clean because of the fan is blowing stuff directly onto it. Okay. Now we can remove my actual system drive. All right, system drive removed. And so this motherboard is ready for its next owner, right? Right here, okay? Again, not a bad motherboard, rather stable for quite a long time. All right, so first thing first, obviously we need the motherboard. So let's check out the Pro B50 650S Wi-Fi. And this is nothing fancy. It's just a generic entry-level business board targeted for business users. For one, I consider myself rather a business user than a gamer. Okay, this is what the motherboard looks like. Not too shabby. Looks nice and clean. This is actually a sticker. You can literally peel this off. So they must have this motherboard, same board design for a lot of other things, with just a slight variation of the design. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's got heatsink on all the components that probably needs it. This is the M2 slot, and it's loose. Okay, so this is the new AM5. I might not even be able to use it. Let's see. All right, so the AM5 looks rather slightly different, but let me measure the plate bolt location. All right, okay, we're good. So this is D15's back plate. I just took a look and it looks like it's matching. So the actual size of the heatsink design hasn't changed. This, I'm gonna just loosen it and remove it and keep it with the motherboard because I don't think I'm gonna be needing this one. I'm gonna be using the actual, I'm gonna be using my own heatsink and the bracket. So this I'm gonna remove and keep on the side. But again, a very generic board. There are no shielding for the audio chipsets, no shielding for the network card. If you look at this this board, supposedly this is a gaming board, so there's shielding on the chips on the audio and shielding on the network card on the network chipset. But does it make a difference? Not really. But again, what I'm going to be missing is this little cooling fan, which is definitely keeping the chipset temperature low. And on this one, unfortunately, we don't have a cooling fan. And at this moment, we can go ahead and install the mounting bracket for the, wow, look at the back. They actually have a reinforced plate on the back of this motherboard, which is interesting. This plate comes with the motherboard, so that means I don't need the original D15 cooler plate on the back, right? Or is this with the motherboard? I'm not sure. This might be with the old motherboard, okay? So let me put it with the old motherboard for now, because looking at my old motherboard, this plate looks like it actually goes in there and aligns with the holes. So now I'm thinking, okay, this plate might come with the ASUS motherboard. It's just, it's loose, but on the MSI, it's actually reinforced and stuck on the motherboard, so you can't really remove it. But all the bolts on my D15 should work. All right, it looks like I installed the plates in the correct location, and I just tried to align those two sockets to try to match what the heatsink is like. And it looks like I was able to match it. So I know that it is working properly. And this step, I'm just gonna tighten this, make sure it's mounted properly, and do a trial run and see if it actually would sit there. So I think it is aligned. Next step, why don't I just actually put this on the motherboard so it's better supported, and we'll take a quick look at the accessories that came with this motherboard. Probably not much. Yep. You have the Wi-Fi antenna, the I/O shield board, plate, just one SATA cable, and what's this? The M2 locking screw, and they only give you one. So yeah, rather scarce. Let's see. How many M2 slots are here? Okay, 2. All right, so that's good. And user manual. Oh, yeah, they did give me two M2 locking slots, so that is good. All right, so let's put the motherboard box away and continue with the installation. And what is crazy is they didn't even include the motherboard mounting screws. So I have to reuse my motherboard mounting screw, which means when I sell my old motherboard, someone has to buy a case, which probably comes with some of the motherboard mounting screws. And again, my install is rather informal. As you can see, I'm literally just taking stuff off and putting stuff back in there. And the next step, very obviously, would be the heatsink. Moment of truth. Heatsink and the processor. We literally just gonna drop the processor in there. Lots of nice pins over there, looks nice. And have it installed. Great price for a high performance processor. Looks a lot different than the 3rd gen Ryzen 9. Now the good thing about AMD processors is that it doesn't have pins, so you don't have to worry about bending them, but I do have to worry about bending the motherboard pin. So just be really, really gentle. Align the notch. Let's see where the notch is. And we're just gonna drop the notch in there. Hopefully it's there. See what's going. Looks like. Yeah. All right, so it is pretty much finished with installation. That's how easy it is. We're gonna clean the area with alcohol one last time, and I'm gonna apply some thermal paste, okay, and get the processor installed. Exciting moment. Again, I already cleaned this area, so it's free of grease. And the most crucial information I can tell you is free of grease and dirt. All right, let's moment of truth. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. All right, I think that's probably enough. Let's put the paste on there. And we'll have to start squeezing it. Direction looks to be correct. There really isn't front and back. So align and secure. Okay. And I want to do this right the first time. I got everything aligned, I guess by luck. Next, I'm gonna use my screwdriver and just literally screw the 2 screws in there to complete the installation of the processor. Alignment is rather easy, okay? It's rather easy. And I'm just making sure I don't need to connect any other ports on the other side, so I don't miss anything. You literally just turn very carefully until the screw stops turning, and it's spring-loaded, so you don't have to worry about over-tightening. As long as it's loaded, it is in position, like so. All right, so now we just need to mount the processor, the fan on there. Very easy to do. Again, I'm gonna brush and clean before I mount the fan, and then I'm gonna connect all the other fans, CPU fans, the case fans, and every other fans on here to complete the final installation of the whole unit. And of course, the graphic card and the M2 slots, which I have to do actually right now. So, all right, I would say the reinstallation is rather easy. Just replugging most of the cables at most of the original position. Pretty basic ATX motherboard design. So none of the stuff is gonna be moved crazy away from where its original position is compared to another motherboard. Now the difference that I found is that, one, I had more gap in between the processor and the CPU. The CPU also is further downwards compared to before, where it's a lot more closer to the top. I've had trouble with the AM5, this fan, not be able to go all the way down because the memory is down there. But I was able to get this fan further down inside. So I think that kind of works. The jumper cable, again, it's still at the original position, and there is a speaker output right here. So USB port right here. Another USB, that's USB 2. This is USB 3. That's an audio cable, power cables. So again, everything's exactly the same, okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and turn the power on after connecting and try to see if hopefully I don't need another license to enjoy the new system. And my old system already packed, ready to sell. Hopefully I can recoup some of the money from selling this still quite powerful 16-core, 32-thread AMD Ryzen 3950X to someone who would consider this a huge upgrade, right? All right, so let's turn on the power and find out how it works. All right, before I close the front cover, let's just turn on the power. Make sure all the fans are spinning, so then we know we are good. All right, LED light works fine. All the fans are working, including the front. I actually rebooted and went into the system right away. Looks like I don't have to enter a new Windows 11 key, it recognizes still as my system, and it automatically pretty much loaded all my applications and put things in order. The last thing I need to do when I open my computer is this MSI update utility. Basically, it automatically detected all the drivers needed, and all I have to do is hit install, and it should install all the new chipset drivers and everything that's needed for this motherboard for me to continue enjoy this completely upgraded motherboard, processor, and memory unit.
All right, good morning, guys. So I got everything set up and done, and now I opened up my CPU-Z for the brand new Ryzen 9 9900X system that I just installed yesterday. And to tell you that one thing you need to be ready for is I do have to re-enter my Windows 11 activation key. The good thing is I bought the activation key and I have the activation code in my email. So I literally just put that same code, re-entered it, and it activated the Windows on this new hardware change. But I guess if you do change the hardware, you do have to reactivate your Windows. So make sure you have the old key ready, okay? Now we are at the CPU-Z. This is the actual application that is reading, and this is my screenshot of the old processor, okay, that I took out. So basically, I'm gonna just show you guys the differences right now here on the screen. This is the socket AM4 on the old device, 7 nanometers technology, which was already impressive back then because Intel was not able to get anything smaller than 10 nanometers, and AMD was able to pull it to 7. The CPU voltage is much higher, 1.4. If you look here, the new processor, okay, 5 years later, they were able to shrink it almost half the size smaller in terms of the transistor size, 4 nanometers, which is amazing. AM5 socket. And if you see CPU voltage when it's idling, a lot lower, which means less heat during idle, which is great. And everything else you guys can see are all here, all the specs. So for the core clock speed, they are able to actually drop the clock speed to a much lower speed during standby in order to save more memories. And if you see the cache, okay, the cache and the way they are communicating, the L1 data cache now is 12-way. If you look at the old, L1 to L2 is all only 8 ways. Only the L3 is 16-way. But if you look here, they improved the, I guess, the channels that the cache is communicating to different things. And the cache size has been increased rather a lot, okay? This didn't increase, of course, because the old Ryzen had 72 megs total of the cache. This one, how many? 32, slightly less, but it's still pretty amazing considering the price differences of the two processors. The motherboard, let me go this. The motherboard, the old one, the new one, again, I didn't go with a top of the line, I just went with a mainstream. Works perfectly fine and boosts the system perfectly fine as well. But if you see here, it's still PCI Express 4 slot times 16 speed, same as the old one. If we go to the memory, you see the memory has been upgraded to DDR5 from DDR4, and I reduced the memory size, but in the future, if I need to, I can always upgrade the memory because there are 2 empty slots. The frequency has been increased, as you can see, from 4 to 5. The channels, this is 2x32-bit, but interestingly, on the DDR4 is 2x64-bit. I don't know if, that makes any difference. The clock speed has been reduced from the 4 to, has been increasing from 4 to 5, I guess, with the increase of the RAM frequency, okay? And let's check the graphics. The graphics is gonna be the same, okay? 4080 Super. But let's go to the most important and interesting thing is the benchmark. This is the old benchmark I got. On the 16-core 32-thread processor, I got a little more than 10,000 of the processor score for the multi-core. And on single core, I got about 517. So let's test the new processor. Immediately, you can see that the score has increased for sure. We got 120. We got 12,000, 12.7 thousand. The old one is 10.8 thousand score. So an increase of almost 2,000 points. And on the single core performance, it has also increased quite a lot, okay? 867 for a single core score versus 517 on the single core. I am quite impressed, quite honestly, because the amount of price that I spent on upgrading, if I do sell the old processor, is rather small. And for that small money that I've invested to get a performance boost after 5 years of owning the 3700 3950X, I would say it's a worthy upgrade. And the power consumption has reduced, okay? I noticed because I was reading the power draw on my the power backup unit, the UPS, and the power draw on the new system standby is actually less than 100 watts. On my old system, if I go into standby, it's still running around 120 to 130 watts. So I think the new processor is more efficient. It is just one thing that I noticed is that the fan actually spins at a higher speed to compensate for the slightly higher running temperature of the new processor versus the old processor, which runs slightly cooler. So that's my I guess observation. And another personal observation that when I use Power BI, I do notice the Power BI loads faster. It loads the data faster. And also on my DaVinci Resolve, the preview of the clips that I uploaded and ready to edit is a lot smoother as well. So definitely an upgrade in terms of productivity suite use if you do use those a lot. In terms of gaming, because this has a higher single core score and it's got also a higher base clock frequency, the gaming performance you should expect also a increase from the 9900X from compared to the 3950X of the AMD processor. All right, so everything is improved. For that, I'm actually very happy. And I want to conclude my review and installation experience here. If you guys found this video helpful, please do hit the like button or subscribe to my channel. I will have more similar videos coming out for you guys. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.